Hi Laura, I'm Chinese Alice, Patrick is at work, and Korean Cho Girl is gathering our free lunch. Welcome to paradise. Oh, there's the shuttle waiting outside. Give me some of those bags. Laura took in the local scene, as well as the Pali Mountains off in the distance, a sight that inspires everyone and raises their consciousness to the max. She exclaimed, "One day I'm in a half-empty workplace, doing not much but some odds and ends, and all of the sudden I'm packing and flying off on a plane for 10 hours to the Garden of Elysium to help our company. Did Patrick set this up for me? I owe him." He would have, but he let his boss suggest it first. That's always good to let the boss do, so he thinks he's actually running things. Ha ha. We had pretty much figured everything out before Mike called, and isn't Patrick your boss? Yes, I love your painted face, it's so vibrantly happy. I've never been happier, as you will see. There have been several miracles arriving out of nowhere. That's for sure, I'm in some kind of shock myself. We're here. We're in the best top-floor suite. Come. Hello, Laura. I'm Cho. We're having a light lunch. We've heard a lot about you. We need your talents. Patrick hired me as a temporary worker, and I guess they liked me. For now, I'm very permanent. Mike gave us this VIP suite. Holy moly, I must be dreaming. Have a bite and then relax or unpack or whatever, or go shopping, dip in the ocean, anything. Patrick wants us to take the weekend off. We'll worry about the project for real on Monday, although he may just sort of size it up for us in general later to percolate. Okay, I'm going to rest for a while after lunch. This is all too good to be true, yet it is so real I could cry.
As the welcoming scent of the ocean breeze filled the air, Laura found herself swept away in the magic of the island, the warmth of new friendships, and the promise of an adventure she had only ever dreamed of. Alice, with her radiant smile and infectious energy, was the epitome of island charm, while Cho, with his calm demeanor and wisdom, was the grounding force in this new world. Over lunch, stories unfolded, laughter echoed, and the bonds of friendship began to weave their threads. The day rolled into evening and the evening into night, with the trio reveling in the euphoria of the moment, while the anticipation of the project loomed somewhere in the back of their minds. Weekends in Hawaii were a blend of tranquility and thrill. Laura, Alice, and Cho found themselves exploring local markets, dipping their toes in the warm Pacific waters and tasting the exotic flavors of the island. Yet, amidst all the fun, they could not shake off the thought of the upcoming project that Patrick had subtly hinted at. Days turned into nights and nights into days, as the trio navigated the balance between work and leisure. Their relationships deepened, their understanding of each other broadened, and their collective strength as a team solidified. Yet the mystery of the project that brought them together remained. One evening, as the sun began its descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Alice turned to Laura and Cho. "Patrick has called for a meeting tomorrow. He says it's time." The words hung in the air, a mix of excitement and anxiety filling the room. The night was filled with anticipation. The dawn of a new day would bring with it the revelation of the project that had been shrouded in mystery. The trio found themselves lost in thought, speculating about what lay ahead. As the sun rose, casting a golden glow over the island, the day of the meeting finally arrived. But just as they were about to leave for the meeting, a sudden knock on the door stopped them in their tracks. The door creaked open, revealing an unexpected visitor, their faces filled with shock and curiosity at the sight. And just like that, the voice echoed, "To be continued," leaving the listeners at the edge of their seats, their hearts pounding with anticipation, yearning to know what happens next in this Hawaiian adventure.
I, Patrick, found my 3 young lady friends in the lagoon pool drinking Singapore slings when I returned, and so I ordered one too and lit up a smoke sitting on a whale sculpture. Cho came over and hugged me whole, and then Alice came and climbed on my back. Laura followed. "Alice is my shadow," I explained to Laura, who looked both amazed and pleased with the goings-on. "Hi boss, I mean Patrick, thanks for getting me here. I'm tipsy from drinking, the girls are corrupting me. We're going shopping after dinner, they want to spend the new pay that they don't have yet, to celebrate and to get some wild outfits for the Kamehameha Nature Festival and dance, right on the beach behind our hotel. See, I can already speak Hawaiian, and it looks like I got into town just in time. Pinch me and kiss me. I'm entranced by the sights and drenched with the luscious perfumes of the flower garden." What the heck, I thought, so I gave her a pinch to wake up, but she said, "Good, I'm still here." And so then I gave her a welcome kiss. And then Cho and Alice gave me a long kiss on each ear, to Laura too. We ate at the buffet in the main dining hall, catching up on the day, devouring the oriental delicacies. Alice, here are your work papers to sign. Cho, you have a letter from home. Laura, you're gleaming and shining, even beneath all the suntan oil. How was your flight? I saw nothing much until the Grand Canyon and the Rockies. I really have to get out more. We landed in LA briefly, and when the new Hawaiian crew came aboard, it finally hit me that I was really heading for Eden. Alice is going to make us all up later. Good pun, Laura, I remarked. We headed up to our suite.
Showgirl offered, "We're getting clothes for you too, my dear Patrick. I'm sure you'll love them. Are you going to write up an overview of our programming project?" "Yes, you guessed it. I thought about it at the fort." Cho replied from Coleridge's poem, "Weave a circle round him thrice, and close your eyes with holy dread, for he on honey-dew hath fed, and drunk the milk of paradise." And then someone interrupted old Coleridge's opium trance, and he never wrote another word to the poem. I replied, "In Xanadu did Kublai Khan a stately pleasure dome decree, where Alph, the sacred river, ran through caverns measureless to man down to a sunless sea." I finished my work, and they their shopping and their makeup. Alice was dressed as a Chinese elf, Laura was a bejeweled belly dancer, and Cho was a flowered nature fairy elf combo. We had someone take several photos of us all together. I said, "I'm going to send one of these to Mike at IBM so he can see his crack programming team at work." After the festival, we sat on a bench on the beach near the ocean where all was quiet. Someone produced a joint, not that we even needed it. In this atmosphere,
In Xanadu did Kublai Khan a stately pleasure dome decree, where Alph, the sacred river, ran through caverns measureless to man down to a sunless sea. So twice 5 miles of fertile ground with walls and towers were girdled round, and there were gardens bright with sinuous rills, where blossomed many an incense-bearing tree, and here were forests ancient as the hills, enfolding sunny spots of greenery. But oh, that deep romantic chasm which slanted down the green hill athwart a cedarn cover, a savage place, as holy and enchanted as air beneath a waning moon was haunted by woman wailing for her demon lover. And from this chasm with ceaseless turmoil seething, as if this earth in fast thick pants were breathing, a mighty fountain momently was forced, amid whose swift half-intermitted burst huge fragments vaulted like rebounding hail, or chaffy grain beneath the thresher's flail, and mid these dancing rocks at once and ever, it flung up momently the sacred river. 5 miles meandering with a mazy motion, through wood and dale the sacred river ran, then reached the caverns measureless to man, and sank in tumult to a lifeless ocean, and mid this tumult Kubla heard from far ancestral voices prophesying war. The shadow of the dome of pleasure floated midway on the waves, where was heard the mingled measure from the fountain and the caves. It was a miracle of rare device, a sunny pleasure dome with caves of ice. A damsel with a dulcimer in a vision once I saw. It was an Abyssinian maid, and on her dulcimer she played, singing of Mount Abora. Could I revive within me her symphony and song, to such a deep delight 'twould win me, that with music loud and long I would build that dome in air, that sunny dome, those caves of ice, and all who heard should see them there, and all should cry, "Beware, beware, his flashing eyes, his floating hair, weave a circle round him thrice, and close your eyes with holy dread, for he on honeydew hath fed and drunk the milk of paradise." "You're a wild dancer, Laura, and full of spirit," Alice said. "What more can you tell us of you if you dare?" My parents were from England, and so I guess that makes me kind of a Brit born in America, as I picked up a bit of the old accent. I'm a woman now, but I've only recently matured into one. Maybe I shouldn't have written Patrick so many love notes. However, I did in my exuberance for having a job and getting away from going back home after college, at which I studied biology and computer programming. Patrick never took advantage of my schoolgirl-like crush on him, leaving me plenty of room to grow, and he always invited me out with his friends to lunches, parties, hikes, and whatnot. It's been a whirlwind that has hardly touched down, and now it's a typhoon-sized circulation within myself, but I am the I. I'm up for both adventure and work. I am incredibly fit, and I really and actually enjoy hard physical work. I'm doing lots of yard things at home. I'd be good in the army, but would hate to leave all my fashions behind. I'm definitely open and honest too. I have no pretense or secrets. I want to give my views about the best way forward. Always preferring to be the driver rather than the passenger, but always happy to be an equal. Yet I am also a complex young woman, due to my continuing growing pains. So I may appear to some as mysterious and enigmatic, but I can be a living dream to the few, although I'm kinda hard work too. Patrick knows me. Cho asked, "Did you bring all those love notes?" "I sure did. I scooped them back out of Patrick's inbox."
Cho said, "It's your night, Laura, as our new guest, for whatever you'd like tonight, tomorrow, or whenever. I think you're old enough for Patrick now if your crush still says so. I am Cho, and it does. And I'm also very surprisingly feminine and accommodating in romance, well, as of right now anyway, and especially. There, I said it, take me you all, I'm free and flowing and on vacation." "Okay," Alice chimed in, "we'll dump the love letters all over our king-size bed tonight and we'll all initiate you with pleasures, back scratches, rub-downs, kisses, loving sex, and more. We can all sleep in tomorrow." "Sure, why not?" Laura answered. "It's really over the top, but there must be something in air here, exciting the passions and injecting one with super spring fever, where living dreams qualifies one to the max with the mysterious and the enigmatic adding to the intrigue." Patrick added, "In Hawaii, we are overcome by the enchantment, and more than a few melt right into you with their glances. It's a really live and dangerous minefield." "Speaking of sensualness," Alice said, "it appears that it is behind much of advertising, especially that of cosmetics and fashion, which hit me all the more during a course I'm taking now, concerning beauty, which I'd like to pursue on the side, along with more physics, which also demonstrates another kind of beauty and truth. Sure, we want to look our best through makeup, fashion, jewelry, and the other accoutrements, but then there is ever the underlying component of attracting the male, as like bees to the flowers, which we discriminate. We are complete in our range of studies here, in that my physics and cosmology studies underlie Cho's chemistry courses, wherein such as perfumes can be made from molecules from physics atoms, which chemical realm underlies Laura's biology investigations, as like perfume's effect. All of these taken in through Patrick's thoughts about the human condition, in life and love.
And including all the horrors too that can be visited upon us, which Patrick has seen firsthand, along with all of our dwellings on our metaphysical wanderings connecting them all. And that's my story for tonight." "Well done," said Laura. "I have a slightly horrible story of terror that comes to mind that I remember from a literature class as a special assignment in poetry that shows life is not all peaches and cream, but—" "Laura," Cho assured, "we ever tell each other whatever we like or what comes to us, whether profound, funny, daydreams or whatever. This keeps our minds going." Alice added, "And the full moon is out and glowing, seeming to have risen right out of Diamond Head, it devouring the slight clouds and bathing us in its shine." "Okay," answered Laura, "but it might be a bit frightening." "The warning poem. Be quick," he shouted. "Run, get out and scatter while you may. Do not tarry and do not wait, for evil comes this way." A dozen eyes looked up in fear, yet distrust curbed their haste. "Who is it comes? What have you seen?" an old man asked at last. The stranger turned his glassy gaze towards the huddled crew, a dreadful sight that burns the eyes and turns the brain to stew, a beastly, foul and fiendish thing, and, oh, that odious smell. But you must hurry, leave this place while yet still whole and well. A murmur rose among them then, but one thought to resist, and from the quiet corner, still the old man's voice persists. Is it a man or devil's horde? And which way does it come? How big is it? What of its shape? Or is it just phantom? The stranger's breath caught in his throat as visions came to mind. It moves like nothing moves on earth, and no man's seen its kind. "Oh God," he cried. "It's everything that's evil, bad and vile, its impish breaths obnoxious and corrupt its vicious smile."
The old man's gaze was steady as he locked the stranger's stare. "How big is it? Does it have eyes, or teeth, or horns, or hair? Oh, teeth like no teeth ever seen, and eyes that are not eyes. It steps and jumps and slithers as it rolls and crawls and flies." The stranger looked around, and then he moved towards the door. "But I'll not linger here," he said. "I'm bound for distant shores, and you'd be well advised, I think, to heed the words I say. For though ye doubt, you soon will see that evil comes this way." The stranger opened the door and gazed to his right, then turned to the old man, his face all full of fright. "It's here!" and quickly ran off toward his boat ashore, but the old man saw no creature nor heard any roar. Yet the stranger went hurtling on down to the stream, then stared back in dread while untying the rope. The old man thought the spectre was an opium dream, for no one beast can fly, roll, crawl, slither and lope. As the old man sat relieved, a rumble shook the floor, followed by a grim roar, so he leapt up to the door. There it swept, demon-eyed, rolling as a snaking coil, jumping the roadside log, then crawling through the soil.
It flew down the riverbank, steadied by its flaring tail, landing on the rope just released by the stranger who had now jumped into the boat to give it some sail. Yet the creature had set fins and crept into the water. The stranger rowed hard, but the beast was closing in. He dropped the sail, but it hadn't yet taken the wind. The creature bit off an oar, it getting stuck in his teeth, while a gust filled the sail, pushing the boat out of reach. The beast was whirling, screwing onward all the more, so the stranger began to circle back around as to shore, heading his bow toward the devilish brute, to the clash, to the do or be done in point taken, now forced as rash. The creature propelled faster, driven by evil's anger. The stranger steered the rudder, heading into danger. The sharp bow split the ogre's head near in half. The bow then separated all the way to the mast. The mast hard crashed down onto the stunned fiend, lifting the stranger from the stern, and flinging him through the air, onto the monster whose reflex mean was to tighten its coil, through which royal none could swim. The old man had rushed through the dust, to the stream, seeing all, then the whirling pool of blood and a scream. They had both gone beneath and run out of breath. He dove in and swum under, noting the peace of death. Thinking all was past and done, the old man went back to his chums. "Okay," he said. "Perhaps I was wrong. The stranger was right all along. Still, there's no need to worry now. I saw the critter sink below. The stranger's gone as well, I fear. Still, we are safely gathered here."
In Hawaii on the beach at night, 1972. Just then they heard a fiendish shriek. The door flew open with a creak, and there a mutilated corpse stood grinning at their screams and gawps. Did you think evil so soon dead? It blubbered through its shredded head. One incarnation just gives way, allowing new ones to hold sway. It slithered, rolled, and flew inside, enjoying how its victims cried. "Now ye would run!" It laughed and danced. "A pity you'll not get the chance." Laura had finished saying, "That's it, and that is enough for one to wonder, but it's only a story." "Holy shit," said Cho. "I'm shivering," said Alice. Laura said, "Now, Patrick, what of our glorious project to save IBM? We need to consolidate the data and turn it into wafer layouts, probably having to run 2 or 3 new lines for the new technology in between what we have, moving things to make room, but space we have aplenty. Alice can do this whole back end and I'll do the middle. Laura, you're well poised to do the front end, being familiar there. We first need to compress what's in the large and unwieldily fat logic segments, which were useful for the bit level for the VTs, but not for our purposes. Most of the traced internals will be the same or similar for the whole 32-bit registers, so you can start by including what is common to the whole register in a new record, then for all the subsequent bit, just put what changes, and write this all on a new tape. It can be done pretty much sequentially. That will get us going, during which time I'll write up functions for anyone to work on. There'll be a pile for what to do, one for listings still being worked on and getting fixed, and one for completed ones, and another for those tested. All will evolve. Don't worry.
It's a bit scary, like Laura's poem, but I'm very up for it. Meanwhile, I'll analyze what Laura brought us. I loved Laura's poem, and I have a new cosmological one. Over 100 billion galaxies and more exist overall. This realm being so large since the Planck is so small. We on our Earth are very near to the insubstantial. Our existence not at all elemental but circumstantial. The continuing expansion will spread all unto the deep, where the thinned out gruel lays itself down to sleep. And so this tells us what our beginnings ultimately meant, which is nothing at all within this vast cosmic firmament. To look for what endures in the ongoing cause, turn to the basics, such as the conversation laws, for they, in summation with infinite precision, maintain from their depth all the other decisions. Yet the cosmos continues on as it ever has done, and always will, all of quantum balanced as one, heeding not the puff of smoke of rot that was once a tiny pale blue dot. Cho stood up and said, "I've just made up a crazy time travel story in my head, and I'd like to try to tell it now. It's not anything spectacular, but it just seemed to come to me. I know not where from, but perhaps it came from the future. It's nothing really. We're ready, even for any meandering streams." I had liked our brief visit to the Big Island, so I boarded a flight to Hilo, Hawaii. Taking a ferry would have been long and slow, although delightful in its own way, but I was saving that for another time. Molokai, Maui, and Lanai passed beneath off to the left. I even somehow have pictures of some of my fantasy journey.
In Hawaii, on the beach at night, 1972. Thoughts of essence pale away within the brightness of living just as they ought to, the light of the candle being more useful than why the wick burns. One's felt state of being much closer to us than the states beneath that make it up. The adventures in a new land eclipsing the reasons that the place formed from lava mountains. I took out a map of southern Hawaii. There it was. South Point and its beach, the last southern landfall before Antarctica. Ah, here is the 12-mile dirt road on the map of HY11. I set off with my backpack and a sleeping bag and rented a Honda motorcycle, reaching the dirt road in half an hour. So far, it had been a rural area where not much English was spoken, except back at the airport, where there were only a few white faces. Palm branches were waving just overhead as I spun up dust on the trail that was called a road. In the winter, many arrived in this cheaper part of the archipelago from the northern hemisphere, with a lot from Canada, a really cold place, and some even from hot places like India, and in the summer from the southern hemisphere. It was ever like the United Nations on an outing. I drove up a mountain toward its end and we could see the ocean from there. This is where Patrick's friend Joe lives, far off in the future. I was going to spy on them both from afar and then approach them later. I walked to the bushes on the side of the beach. The people of interest were sitting at a table, way across the beach, in the shade of a nook, with laptop computers, and Patrick was rolling cigarettes and selling them. It was windy, so he was just taking a pinch out of the green bag at a time. Some would pay and leave right away, but some would linger and engage, and so they would get their cigarette for free, and some would remain for quite a while, probably negotiating a way to stay under their wing when their hotel time was up. Just can't trust those girls.
In Hawaii on the beach in 1972, Cho continues her fantasy story of the future. I surmised that must be Joe next to Patrick, and I can read his lips with my glass, and oh, it's funny. Joe's saying, "I'm an old man, and soon to be a married man on St. Patrick's Day." Well, so the girls are hitting on them, as would be expected, but they both look spry. I approached Patrick smiling and he spoke and then offered, "Cigarettes, 50 cents, the going rate, but they have full flavor and they are long and hand-rolled. Free if you stay a while and talk." I took one relating hand-rolled by your machine, now put away as cranked really Rio menthol pipe tobacco, $16 a bag, put in a slot, with a little door that closes over, so as to have just the right amount, a little metal half-cylinder going out into paper tube. He said, "How did you know? You didn't even light it up yet." "I spied on you from those bushes way over there from the past. I'm here in my future from way back." "Good, I like that, for you are prepared for this time." I lit up, inhaling deeply, remarking, "Helps concentration, such as for figuring out reality clear and dear, the most often wondered question on Earth's sphere. I am an old man who is still very young at heart, both for love and for philosophy. And I am the one you seek. I am the seer, the oracle, the sage answering your SOS. Patrick nearly fell off his chair and then did as a joke and then got up and gave me a hug, Joe adding a jug.
In Hawaii on the beach, Cho Girl continues her story of the future. I was thirsty and drank a long gulp, saying, "Yes, I came all the way here, following your meta-interests. You are indeed Sherlock's younger sister and indeed a detective, and I could hardly even get anyone interested. We think alike, in fact we are the same, both extrovert and introvert, sensing and intuitive, thinking and feeling, spontaneous and orderly, though INFP-based. Patrick didn't tell Joe that he'd known me all his life. That's the end of the tale. I've glimpsed some kind of a future, from somewhere in the deserts of time's time. So then, readers, here our overall story of young lives, loves and words ends its run, for now on this evening of promise back in the past, and in the future in South Point on the Big Island. Afterward, Austin is still drenched in the alluring fragrance of the vapor that permeated into his soul, ever there remaining. He said, "The inundation of the bouquet of aroma is ever irresistible in its redolence." I remember the day I rode my motorcycle to the Marine base at Kaneohe for a military meeting on the southeastern point, passing along the scenic rugged shore of fine blue waves, crashing against the rocks and the body surfing paradise at Sandy Beach. Here the DIA general said that we had gained in the main in the war against the Rouge, delaying them, which the Vietnamese would move on to. The Paris Peace Accords were underway. He freed us from Indochina service, and there was still near a year to go for me to enjoy Hawaii. It was indeed an honor when the great man of secrets revealed his new lady. Nimue had found her Merlin at last. Whenever I returned from the afar deliveries to CSC PAC, I would stand in the center of the circle of palms, and Ben and Lena of civil service would come out to hear the stories and about the supply and intelligence installations.
In Hawaii, 1972, Patrick is in the Army. There were the exciting airports, both normal and military, and exotic locales in which to revel, such as Okinawa and Hong Kong, between the long flights with the tapes and duplicates that occupied a first-class seat beside me. Wine, women, song, and death made for a curious mixture of emotions on these vacations. But who really needed a vacation from Hawaii, the Pearl and the Paradise? And then it was up the mountain again, to home and heart, after a stop at the PX to buy something to grill. At the University of Saigon, I once saw a college student serving in tennis very distinctively, using an American twist serve. In 1975, Sun Ho fled the falling Saigon in an overcrowded boat, and had turned up at IBM within a few years. I saw him serving at the IBM Country Club courts and knew it had to be him. It had been a long way for him to flee and fly. He was also the one with the severe backhand slice that no one could retrieve. He became my tennis mentor. And then there arrived my Chinese friend-to-be, the only one without a short last name, Stan Long. Hawaii was a constant vacation, upon return, and we went to Tahiti. Here in those southern islands, the DIA General Wizard had retired, with his Nimue at a fine and youthful age, he the staunch seeker of evil with his pure and golden heart. Here in Papeete and Bora Bora, it was always dance, love, and song on the beach. Here the Southern Cross once again rose, and it was here that we learned so many more of the world's events that had never happened. We had one last drink, a very fine whiskey this time, raising our glasses to the valor of all the deeds, for the living and for the dead, over the bronze of the sea of the setting sun.